Dr.Robert TV Africa. This is Friday Newspaper Briefing. I am your host, Reginah. The rich also cry. A case of a sauna experience gone awry. Had Timothy Baria imagined that going to the sauna to unwind would have turned tragic, he would have chosen another indulgence. He walked into a sauna at Nairobi club a healthy man, only to walk out a sick man with second-degree burns. His afternoon of relaxation quickly turned catastrophic in what he claims was a negligence on the part of the club. He now wants to be compensated for the damages, the pain, and the money he used for treatment. At around 4:50 p.m. on August 31st, 2022, after being in the sauna for about 25 minutes, he recalls he was severely injured due to excess heat and extremely hot air. As a result, he suffered burns on his head, ears, neck, back, shoulders, torso, forearms, palms, and thighs. Baira, originally an Ugandan who works and lives in the United States, was in Kenya together with his wife for a vacation of 6 months. His wife is a member of the club and he was there at her invitation. This has, however, changed his life forever, he says. The sauna heat encourages detoxifying perspiration, relief from aches and pains, and deep relaxation, among many other health benefits. A sauna is usually a small room designed as a place to experience dry or wet heat sessions. A bather goes in and the room is heated. The resulting steam and high heat make the users perspire. The half-hour barrier spent inside the sauna was to have been a bath from inside out. Instead, he spent the subsequent days worrying about his health. He flew into the country fit and healthy in April. He was visiting his family and friends. Upon the expiry of the period, he was to return to his home in Ohio, USA. Instead, he became immobile and was in pain for a fortnight. Therapy sessions then became part of his life. After nursing wounds for more than 2 months, he has been undergoing physiotherapy. Yesterday, he jetted out on the country in pain, medication, and under the close watch of medical workers. A sauna warms up the body and can be used in a number of ways, both recreational and for health purposes. Sorry, Mr. Baria, but again, it's something he took himself into, so we can't say much. Now, meet your 9 ELA legislators, Winnie Odinga and Kennedy Kalonzo, and Mo win final vote. Now, Azimia leaders, Raila Odinga and Kalonzo Musyoka's children, were on Thursday evening among 9 people picked by Parliament to represent Kenya in the Arusha-based East African Legislative Assembly. On the Kenya Kwanza side, those chosen were former Mombasa Senator Hassan Omar, ex-nominated MP David Sankok, ex-Nandi Women Representative Zipporah Kerim, ex-nominated Senator Faliha Iman Dekwo, and Godfrey Mwangi Maina. On the Azimio side, those chosen are Kennedy Kalonzo, Mr. Musyoka's son, Mr. Odinga's youngest daughter Winnie, former Kieni MP Kanini Kega, and Mombasa politician Suleiman Shabal. Now, below is the full list. In the Kenya Kwanza, we have Hassan Omar, Zipporah Kerim, David Ole Sankok, Godfrey Mwangi, and Faliha Iman. On the Azimio, we have Kennedy Kalonzo, who is Kalonzo's son, and then we have Winnie Odinga, the youngest daughter to the flag bearer, Mr. Raila Odinga. We have Kanini Kega, and then we have Suleiman Shabal. Now, even though the former Igembe Central MP, Cyprian Kubai Iringo, beat his deco in the number of votes, he was knocked out of the list because of the requirement of gender, with the ex-nominated senator taking up the last of the 5 seats that were due to Kenya Kwanza. National Assembly Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah admitted the divisions in the Kenya Kwanza camp, but did not go into the details. Like every election, there comes with divisions. This was no different, but we want to move on and ask all the 9 ELA representatives to give us the best in Arusha and help us get the best laws, said Mr. Ichung'wah. National Assembly Minority Whip Junet Mohammed termed Mr. Mwangi's election as one that makes him a hero. Mwangi Maina is a hero in this election. He was rejected in this election by his party, that he was not worthy of an ELA nomination. This is a young man at 28 who deserves all the chances, Mr. Mohammed said, to which Mr. Ichung'wah protested, saying Mr. Maina had not been rejected and had been rightly elected as an ELA MP. Now, congratulations to all the ELA legislators as they go and present us in Arusha. We are happy for you. Now, yesterday we had a case of the former Kikuyu comedian Kianangi, who we found out that the wife was asking the government to look for his husband, to look for her husband, and now the police case is saying that he was a car thief, you know. Now the government has been asked to investigate the disappearance. Okay, it was asked by the wife, but now police claim comedian was part of a car thief. They're saying that he was part of the thieves that stole the car. Now, as the woman who was in his life and together we had 2 children, I can say he was not a criminal and was earning a honest living. That is how now the wife was claiming after the police saying that he was part of the car thief. Now Mbuthi agrees. What I know of Kianangi is what he was law-abiding and never harbored any criminal inclinations. I interacted with him even while he was under the influence of alcohol, where he could exercise a higher degree of honesty. There was no indication that he was involved in crime, he said. The officer, who seemed to know more than he was letting on, told Nation Africa, "Go and report that crime does not pay. He was a part-time car thief when not doing Kikuyu comedy." Okay? He was picked up one day by someone he knew, and the rest is why you're asking me these questions. Had he concentrated on his comedy, the guy could still be eating his githeri as we speak. Wow, that's savage. But his wife does not agree. Why trick him then make him disappear? Why not take him to court? Why not make it happen in a way that will allow us to see his remains so that we can bury him, then close that chapter, she asked. Of which is true. Mrs. Njere said the disappearance caused a lot of stress, leading to the death of his mother and the illness of her father-in-law. She's at loss to explain to her children the whereabouts of their father. She cannot conclude that her husband is dead. I cannot with confidence say he's alive either. That forms the great dilemma that I live with, she added. The more I reminisce about this, the more I get convinced that the police have to answer to the whereabouts of my husband, and the moment of truth is now. She says. Okay, if Mr. Kianangi was a car thief, then I think they could have followed the right order to make him pay for being a car thief instead of, you know, making him disappear and tricking him to disappear. So I would support the wife by saying that the government should look for him, either dead, either alive. The family has the right to know where he is. At least even if he's dead, at least they can see the body and close the chapter of, you know, waiting for someone. They never really know where he is. Now, DRC Congo sends warplanes against advancing M23 rebels. The Democratic Republic of Congo deployed 2 warplanes against advancing M23 militants on Thursday in the country's volatile east. Sources said after a regional bloc called for rebels to disarm. Tanks and 2 fighter jets targeted rebel positions in the town of Kibumba at noon, according to a resident who spoke to AFP via telephone from the region's main city, Goma. M23 fighters recently captured the town. They recently captured the town in North Kivu province, which lies just 20 kilometers north of Goma, a commercial hub of 1 million people. A security official who requested anonymity confirmed the warplane strikes. "We have hope you're moving forward," he told AFP. The retaliation by Congolese forces came as the M23 has been pushing closer towards Goma, sparking fears of an attack on the city. Drawn mostly from Congolese tools, the rebel group has recently captured swathes of territory across North Kivu. The advance has triggered a humanitarian crisis and showdown with Rwanda, which the DRC accuses of backing the M23. Local residents and administrative officials told AFP that the M23 has also begun a push westwards into North Kivu's Masisi territory from its stronghold near the border with Uganda and Rwanda. "The rebels are here," a resident of Tongo, a town lying on the road leading to Masisi territory, said on Thursday. An official in the local administration who requested anonymity also told AFP late Wednesday that M23 fighters had entered his office. The DRC army has yet to communicate officially about the rebel advance. Dozens of people marched against the M23 in protests held across the country on Thursday, including more than 15,000 in the capital, Kinshasa, according to the organizers. Now, fleeing the enemy, dozens of people packed their belongings and headed towards Goma on Tuesday, amid rumors of a rebel advance after troops were seen fleeing. The following day, a military tribunal in Goma sentenced 3 to death for cowardice and having fled before the enemy, among other charges, a court official said. In practice, the death penalty in the DRC is commuted to life imprisonment. On Wednesday, the head of the newly erected East African Community Military Force in Eastern DRC Congo, Jeff Nyaga, said that rebels must pursue political negotiations and disarm. Those who fail to refuse to voluntarily disarm then will go for them, the Kenyan general warned. So it's not only Kenya that is facing security issues, we've seen even other countries, so I pray peace can reign. Now, my parents died because of someone's selfishness. The town of Ruaka in Kiambu County has become a favorite of a new breed of middle-class Kenyans thanks to deep-pocketed developers who have set up high-end apartments and are ranking a good returns, especially from West Africans. But rapid development has its dark side. Patrick Karomo lives in the area, and when he retired to bed on Wednesday night after a long day working as a plumber, he never thought he would wake up on Thursday as an orphan. A rock developer was building a condemned 6-story commercial building which came down on Thursday, claiming the lives of his 2 parents. This is where I used to sit with my parents. They have died because of someone's greed. Mr. Karomo says fighting back tears as a bulldozer runs over a pile of stones at the scene. As you can see, the house was condemned, but people who are supposed to stop the construction have been receiving bribes from the developer, and my parents have paid the ultimate price for someone's greed. The people Mr. Karomo blamed for the death of his 2 parents, Peter Njithi and Faith Wambui, fall under the Lands, Housing and Physical Planning Department in Kiambu County. A small clique of individuals, our sources say, has made the department a goldmine, and if they convene and say someone will never build a house or get approval, their decisions are the law. The problem of buildings are collapsing in Kiambu will not end anytime soon. A developer based in Kiambu told the nation in confidence. You want to do the right thing, but those in charge can't allow it, and have to create roadblocks so that they have to come after every 3 weeks to ask for bribes after the developer gets tired and embarks on building without approval. So if the law says the maximum should be 5 floors, I have to add another floor to recover the money that I have used in bribing the planning department during the construction. Let us not lie that the authorities do not know what is happening. They are part of the problem. Our visits turned out like we were only informing them that there is an opening to make money. Now look at what happened, Mr. Karomo said. His father had retired and his mother was involved in small-scale farming. The first responders at the scene told the nation that the incident happened around 4 a.m. on Thursday when the couple were asleep. Mr. Karomo said he had a loud thud from his house, which is a few meters from the site. When he stepped outside, he found his parents' house in the rubble. Well, that is a sad story. And according to him, he's saying that the authorities are involved in this because they're the same people that take bribes. So instead of following the law about maybe the amount of floors you're supposed to construct as a constructor, they come and bribe you, and now because you have to return the money you've used in bribing them, you have to add another floor against the law. So I think the authorities are there to blame. Now, family says slain teacher was not a criminal, demands body for burial. Now, the family of a Baringo teacher whose decomposed body was found mauled by animals has defended him, saying he was not a criminal. His relatives also want his body so that he can give him a decent burial. Luka Kiplangat, 52, who was a teacher at Capello Primary School in Magoti Sub-County, went missing on October 29th after telling his family that he was headed to Nakuru. Mr. Kiplangat, a father of 5, was a secretary to the African Inland Church, AIC, Kababesi, and was a renowned master of ceremony in the area the nation has learned. His decomposing body was found riddled with bullets a week after he left home for Nakuru in the far-flung Nasur village in Tiatia East on the borders of Baringo, Samburu, and Laikipia counties. His family has not yet been allowed to view his remains, and police have not told them where they are. All they have are photos of a body that was allegedly spotted in a thicket in Teiti, they said. Now, Amaya Assistant Chief David Lomantil, who visited the scene where the body was found, said it had gunshots and had been stripped of the trousers and shoes. Mr. Lomantil sent photographs of the body to the family, and they positively identified him as that of the teacher from the jacket he was wearing when he left home. At his home on Wednesday, relatives, neighbors, and colleagues visited the family to offer their condolences. The family was reluctant to speak to reporters, but later agreed to an interview with the conditions. Now, the area is more than 30 kilometers from adjacent villages, and it borders Baringo, Laikipia, and Samburu counties, and we were forced to walk for several hours on foot because it was not accessible by a vehicle. We have arrested one suspect who is reported to have been with the teacher, and we found him with an elephant tusk and a gun, but the other accomplice is still at large. We suspect that the trial had been a deal that went sour, leading to the killing of the teacher. The suspect in police custody claimed that the teacher was shot dead by the missing accomplice after they disagreed on a deal, detectives said. Condolences to the family of the teacher. It's indeed a sad story. Now, TSC, the Teacher Service Commission, to hire 30,000 teachers in January. The remainder of 116,000 promised by President William Ruto during the elections campaigns has been pushed forward due to the economic situation. Education Cabinet Secretary Ezekiel Muchagu made the announcement yesterday, adding that the hiring will be done progressively. Mr. Muchagu, speaking at Kesi School, explained that the current economic situation could not allow the president's promise to be fulfilled at once. We know that this coming year we had promised 116,000 teachers, but because of the nature of the economy, the way it is, we are going to do it progressively. So this coming January, we are going to recruit 30,000 teachers, and thereafter we'll be able to improve. Mr. Muchagu told principals from Kisii and Nyamira counties. The CS assured Kenyans of the credibility of the national examinations that are scheduled to start on November 28th. He said that just like under the previous government, the administration of the examinations will be supervised jointly by various state ministries and agencies. Other officials who accompanied the CS during his Nyanza tour are outgoing Basic Education Principal Secretary Julius John and Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development boss Charles Omondo. As we open the schools on January 23rd, our young ones who are doing the exams will know whether they will be hosted in primary or secondary following the report that will be made by President Ruto, said the CS. So the CBC team is not yet aware. They are not yet aware if they're going to join high school or they're going to continue the primary. It's not yet made. So I think the president is being waited to give that speech and to give the go-ahead on the issue. Now, Twitter exodus begins after Musk hardcore ultimatum. Employee departures were multiplying at Twitter on Thursday after an ultimatum from new owner Elon Musk, who demanded staff choose between being extremely hardcore and working intense long hours or losing their jobs. I may be exceptional, but gosh darn it, I'm just not hardcore, tweeted one former employee, Andrea Host, whose profile still reads supply chain and capacity management. She added the hashtag, love where you worked, as did many other employees announcing their choice. Musk, also the CEO of Tesla and SpaceX, has come under fire for radical changes at the social media company, which he bought for 44 US billion late last month. He had already fired half of the company's 7,500 staff, scrapped a work from home policy, and imposed long hours, all while his attempts to overhaul Twitter have faced chaos and delays. His stumbling attempts to revamp user verification with a controversial subscription service have led to a slew of fake accounts and pranks, and prompted major advertisers to step away from the platform. Now, the troubled social media networks management told employees Thursday that offices were temporarily closed and inaccessible, even with a badge, according to Zoe Skiffer, a journalist for the tech industry newsletter platform. Now, going forward, to build a breakthrough Twitter 2.0 and succeed, an increasingly competitive world will need to be extremely hardcore, Musk wrote in the ultimum and an internal memo sent Wednesday and seen by AFP. This will mean working long hours at high intensity. Only exceptional performance will constitute a passing grade, he added. Staff has been asked to follow a link to affirm their commitment to the new Twitter by 5 p.m. New York time on Thursday. If they did not do so, they lost their jobs, receiving 3 months of severance pay, unusual method ever even in the United States, where labor laws are less protective for employees than in many other developed countries. Twitter did not respond to AFP requests for comment on the new measure. No, I was just grateful to say I was able to get my dream job and do more than I ever thought possible. It's been a wild ride, Diana Hinsgaslu, who was a senior client account manager at Twitter, tweeted Thursday, according to her LinkedIn profile. Esther Crawford, the platform's director of product development and one of the few managers who have not been fired, who have not resigned, and who still publicly support the new leader, tweeted, "To all the tweeps who decided to make today your last day, thanks for being incredible teammates through the ups and downs. I can't wait to see what you do next." Okay, that is the case of Twitter. And finally, we have a story now about a woman who left her family, and now she left to fend for her family in Saudi Arabia. Now she will return in a coffin. That is really sad. Mrs. Jacqueline Muthoni left Kenya for Saudi Arabia 10 years ago to work and improve the lives of her 2 daughters, aged 8 and 3 years at the time. But the 40-year-old mother is returning home in a coffin. When she was admitted to El Man General Hospital sometime in early June, no one seemed to have been notified. The death notice shows she died on June 10th after suffering hemorrhagic fever with renal syndrome and excessive bleeding, the cause of which is unknown. Meanwhile, her family in Kanyakin, Imenti South, got wind of her death in October, 4 months later, through social media. Her disheartening story told on Facebook and WhatsApp groups, where her photo and a chilling message went viral. After seeing the post, her elder sister, Mrs. Caroline Kagwira, said she passed out. When she came, she went through a traumatizing experience of disclosing the news to her ailing mother, Mrs. Jane Kiambi, and confirming the death a month later. And she is bitter about the secrecy surrounding her sister's death. Even her friends in the kingdom where she had lived for 10 years have refused to tell her what exactly happened. The family hopes to get more information when the body arrives in Kenya and after postmortem is conducted. We have a government in Kenya, yet these stories are still happening. Why? Why would somebody die in a foreign land only for the information to be hidden from the family for months? She told the Nation Africa, tears gushing from her red eyes. Since we got the news, nobody has volunteered information about what happened. There is secrecy around this matter that we cannot understand, she added. Now, the family's ordeal started in October last year when Mrs. Muthoni cut off communication after allegedly being taken to a deportation camp and being confined there. Mrs. Kiambi said Mrs. Muthoni told them she was held at the center after the travel documents were confiscated. Speaking to journalists at her home, Mrs. Kiambi said her daughter had promised to return to Kenya this year, only for the family to be hit by the bad news. Before we received the news of her death, we had not spoken for a year because she was in the deportation camp. But we still hoped she will travel this year as she had promised. It was shocking that we learned of her death through social media, she said. Now, Mrs. Kiambi, who takes care of her daughter's children, lost her husband in 2004 while her second and third born sons, who worked in Nairobi, died in 2006 and 2017 respectively. A family friend who followed up on the death at the Foreign Affairs Ministry said when he started making inquiries, no information was forthcoming. Now, the family is expected to raise over 500,000 shillings, that is $500,000, to repatriate the body with Mrs. Kagwira, saying they have started collecting the money. But she noted that the bill was way above the ability to pay, adding that it will take several months to hit the target. The reports came in the wake of an outcry over mistreatment of Kenyan workers in Saudi Arabia. Dozens of Kenyans have died in Saudi Arabia under mysterious circumstances. In September, Mrs. Diana Chepkemoi, a student at Mary University of Science and Technology, who was working in Saudi Arabia, was flown back home after being tortured by her employers. The story of Kenyans being mistreated in Saudi Arabia has really gone for a long time. We have seen that so many cases have happened, even in this year and former years also. You have seen people going there, dying, other people coming back, they are mistreated, they are abused physically, they are abused even emotionally. I mean, we have a government that is supposed to take care of these people when they go. And mostly we find that nowadays, at least, there is a scheme that it's the government taking the people itself. So in case of anything, then the government is the one responsible. But again, we are seeing, even with that, we are seeing that many people are suffering, many people are coming back dead. And when you ask why these people died, you're not told. They die at mysterious circumstances which are not explained by the people involved. So I think it's an issue that is supposed to be taken care of by the government to make sure that our people are well safe. But I always say it's not a must to go for Saudi Arabia. Kenya is strong on its own, so I think if you just stick here and find something to do, you can be able to raise a family, you can be able to bring food on the table instead of going to a foreign country to be mistreated. So that was all we had for today. Thank you for being with us. This is Romy TV Africa. Make sure you follow us at all our social media platforms, and we see you next on Monday. May you have a lovely weekend and make sure you keep warm. I've been your host, Reginah Samuel.